Hey everybody, I'm Bede, aka the Terrible Australian of Super Podcasts, and welcome to the 13th edition of the Godzilla Diaries. For this one, I will be talking about Godzilla vs. Destoroyah, or Destroyer, and the Roland Emmerich's 1998 US remake of Godzilla. So let's get right into it. First up, Godzilla vs. Destoroyah. Sorry if I keep pronouncing that last name wrong, but it's either that pronunciation or just Destroyer, so I'll just call it Destroyer for the time being. Um, Now this one was the very last installment of the Heisei period of the franchise, and there wouldn't be another installment in the series until another couple years later. And now there is going to be spoilers for this one, and I'm going to put that up right now. So if you don't want to know what happens in this installment, stop watching right now. Okay. Why didn't anyone tell me that Godzilla dies in this movie? Seriously, I did not know that. I'm sort of looking up everything about the film after when I saw it, and I didn't realize that this was the film where Godzilla dies, and I did not expect that at all to happen. And I mean, everyone else on the planet knew except me. I mean, even the tagline on the original Japanese poster is "Godzilla dies," and I did not know that, and this was a genuine surprise to me. And all I can say about this film is just wow, this is a fantastic installment of the in the series, and the film definitely lives up to its title of Godzilla vs. Destroyer, because this movie pretty much destroyed me by the end of it. I was just kind of blown away by it, to be honest. And I'm not going to lie, after I watched this film, I had immediately had to watch it again right after. Because I was like, just, just it was wow the first time I watched it, and a few hours afterwards, I rewatched the whole film again. It's just as great as it was on the second viewing as it was on the first, and just wow, this movie is just fantastic. And the only way I can describe the plot to this film is that I have to read this one, just so you viewers out there could know what the plot of this is about. So here we go. Something has destroyed Birth Island, home of Godzilla and Little Godzilla, and soon it is discovered that Godzilla has developed a bright flaming glow, indicating that his nuclear energy is growing out of control. Fearing that Godzilla will soon explode, the G-force tries to freeze him, thus cooling his temperature. But another problem arises, and the horde of human-sized creatures formed from a combination of Godzilla cells and the weapon that destroyed the original one, the Oxygen Destroyer. Now the military must try to stop these creatures and stop Godzilla from going through a nuclear meltdown that could destroy the world. So in this one, what I really loved about this film is that there are a lot of reference. This one harkens back to the original 1954 film. There's a lot of references. The character of Amiko Yamane, who was played by Momoko Kochi, she returns. This is her first time back in the series since the 54 film, so she returns to reprise her role in this one. And also there are two characters, a young college student by the name of Kenichi Yoyami and a reporter, Yukari Yamane. They are actually the son and daughter of the adopted son of Professor Yamane in the 54 film. So we get this sort of like these characters, and also the film also and it has a scientist character by the name of Professor Fukuzawa, who is sort of developing this new bit of technology called micro oxygen, that's sort of along the same lines as of Dr. Surasawa's Oxygen Destroyer weapon that was used that killed the very first Godzilla in the first film. And then while they're sort of working on that, a bunch of course, as I said in the synopsis, a bunch of creatures that eventually get called Destroyer come in, and the Destroyer. The thing about Destroyer is at first it's just like a whole bunch of creatures, but eventually at some point they can all form together into a much larger creature, and Destroyer. Well, Destroyer, as the creature's known in the film, goes through different phases through this film. Like he's at like this sort of like he can start out about the size of a human being, and then get large, and then gets even bigger. And like when he gets to his full size, he looks like Satan himself. It's a brilliant creation of this creature, and especially this one actually is probably the most formidable foe that Godzilla has ever faced in the entire series um, because not only is just one of is just absolutely dangerous and absolutely evil, and this creature does things in this movie that this isn't a monster that you're going to root for, like an evil monster that you're going to root for, like Ghidorah or Mechagodzilla. This is the only kaiju in the series that you love to hate. You hate this character because what he does in this film is just horrible. Also, Little Godzilla returns, and has gotten even bigger than he was in Space Godzilla, and he's actually about probably he's definitely looks a lot like his dad Godzilla this time around, but he's much bigger, not quite as big as Godzilla, but almost the same size as him, and we get to see him fight against Destroyer at one point, but then in a shocking moment that I didn't expect at all, and I was actually taken aback by, was that Destroyer actually kills Little Godzilla, or Godzilla Jr. is known in the film, and and this is the very first time, like we kind of seen hints of it in the last two Godzilla films, of the sort of the humanity of the Godzilla character, because when Godzilla Jr. dies, uh, Godzilla actually mourns the loss of his son, and there's actually a scene where he's trying to revive Godzilla Jr. by using sort of like the energy from his body, the essence or something of his body. It's kind of similar to what happened to some of the other monsters in the previous film, but it doesn't work. And of course, it enrages Godzilla, and it goes into a massive battle sequence, and it's incredible. This last third is probably one of the best third acts ever in a Godzilla film. It's just spectacular. And also, like I said earlier, I love the sort of and I love that they sort of bring it back again with full circle with bringing the Oxygen Destroyer back, since this creature is kind of like the personification, like the personification of that weapon. At first, the scientists want to use Destroyer to take out Godzilla, because if Godzilla isn't destroyed, because he's basically a walking time bomb. If he gets too overheated, the whole world could be destroyed. He's like a massive atomic bomb. And there's a lot of things that happen in here. The human characters are all really good. The character Miki, who's appeared in all the films in this in the Heisei period, she gives a very emotional performance, and that was the thing I was taken aback by. This film is very emotional and very engaging, and then the way that Godzilla dies is just incredible and very powerful. And I'm not gonna lie, I was a bit misty eyed. I was very misty eyed during that scene. But then the film sort of gives a bit of a hopeful ending. They sort of the scientists sort of hear it, like there's fog everywhere, and they hear a sound, and you go through the fog, and then you realize that Godzilla Jr. is alive. Thank goodness. Godzilla's son was able to revive him, but now he's sort of much bigger, and is basically, the film sort of hinting like he is now going to take the place of Godzilla and take over. And it's just a great film. And I also love a sequence where that reminded me a lot of the film Aliens, where a group of police officers go into this building to hunt all the destroyer creatures, and it's sort of it's just a great sequence. Like I said, it's sort of how it was directed. It's definitely this is the most action-packed moment in the series, and that you get to see human beings actually fight these creatures head on. And this one definitely has its horror influence on its sleeve, especially in that scene and a few others as well. And it's just there's not enough I can say about this. It's just a fantastic film. And after the first Godzilla film, this is definitely the best one. This would be number 2 after the original one. It's that great, and just and very powerful at the end. If I had to give this a rating, it's definitely 4.5 stars. It's that good. Now on to the other opposite end of the spectrum. 1998 remake of Godzilla, written and directed by Roland Emmerich. Now, I'm not going to lie, and I know I'm going to get a lot of crap for this, but I am an unabashed, unapologetic fan of Roland Emmerich. I love the guy. I enjoy his movies. Yes, they're dumb and they're silly, but I enjoy the hell out of them. I'm not going to say that all of his movies are perfect. He does have, he's made about maybe 2 or 3 that I didn't like, and what's good about me seeing the '98 US remake is that I hadn't seen it for quite a while, but when it first came out as a kid, I was very impressionable, and it was my first, monster movie in the cinema, and I was excited to see it, and I loved it on the first viewing. So rewatching it again now, I can definitely see that it definitely doesn't hold up at all, and it's definitely not a good movie at all. I don't think it's the worst movie ever, as a lot of people say, but I think as a remake of Godzilla, it's definitely not good. But I did read that Roland Emmerich has admitted in recent interviews that he admits that he wasn't a fan of the series, and he was basically just kind of roped into it by his producer and co-writer Dean Devlin, who's a huge Godzilla fan. He didn't really want to make it, but but ended up doing it anyway. And it definitely shows when you watch the film, because he said basically he'll only do this film basically if he just got to do whatever he wanted, and you get this and you see that in the film. But I think there are a lot of little in positives of the film. I think there are a lot of good aspects of it. I think for some areas that Emmerich does direct the film well. There's some great sort of staging of scenes, especially the scene where Godzilla actually arrives in New York for the first time, and there are a lot of sort of images and scenes and all that that seeped into my memory since I first watched it, that then left such an impression on me, and great little moments here and there. But it's just let down by a very weak script, very very dumb and very weak script. And while some actors do try their best, others just don't work well. Even though I do like Matthew Broderick, but unfortunately I can understand why he was cast, because he would give that everyman aspect to the character that he's playing, but it just seemed a bit monotone for most of the time, and I don't think he ever really got like a clue of what his character is. You don't know if he's going to be quirky or comical, but I don't know. And also an actress, and also what's her name? Maria Pitolito. I can't remember. Sorry if I butchered her last name. Yeah, she's not good either. And it's no wonder she won a Razzie for this film. And her character's annoying too. But everyone else is okay. Like they don't not give her much to do, but they try their best. So yeah, it's just like there is a lot of potential here. I think on its own, like if you separate it from being a Godzilla film, it's watchable. And it is watchable. I wasn't bored at all by the film, and it is pretty well paced. But I mean, compared to other Roland Emmerich, but unfortunately compared to other Emmerich films, like which are dumb, but are still enjoyable. This one's just pretty dumb. So, but like I said, it's not the worst thing ever. On its own, like it's average but watchable. But as a Godzilla film, it's not good at all. Although I will say, the creature design, even though he doesn't look anything like Godzilla at all, is actually, for what it is, like the Zilla, as he's known now instead of Godzilla, he's actually a pretty cool design on its own. So, and definitely much more memorable than other monsters in the past couple years in film. So, but overall, if I had to rate this one, I give it about a 2.5. It's not the worst thing ever, but it's just average. Watchable, but average. Although, one more thing, that's a lot of fish. I hope you all enjoyed this edition of the Godzilla Diaries, and keep a lookout very soon for the 14th edition, in which I'll be talking about the first 2 films in the Millennium period of the franchise, Godzilla 2000 and Godzilla versus Megagoras. Sorry if I pronounced that last part wrong. And I'll see you all then. See you, everyone. Bye.